Good morning and welcome to Sunday. I'm so glad to be here. And I'm so glad that you are too. So it is April 30th, which means it's the last day of the month. Such a great opportunity to reflect on what's been going on, right? We're at our last stretch here in Myrtle Beach. We'll be leaving Thursday to head back to Asheville. And the last week of the month is, it's a time where I work on various projects. I don't meet one-on-one with clients. I do a little bit of a different thing on the last week of the month. And for me, part of what I do is reflect on the month. I reflect on what's happened. I reflect on what things have gone well. What things did I accomplish? What things happened that were unexpected. And so it's an opportunity just to reflect on what is, right? Not necessarily, what I used to do is really reflect on what worked, what didn't work, what do I want to do differently? And that is a really great and useful tool, and I love it. And because I understand there's so much judgment and our minds are already trained to find what's not working, right? And so I find that my mind naturally goes to what didn't work well and how I should improve. And that is a good thing to do for sure, if it's done in the right spirit. And the thing that I find that people need the most, that I work on the most with my clients and myself, is let's just look at what's working well, right? What's been going well? Where have you felt really good? What have you accomplished? What has surprised you in your favor, right? Because I'm continually working on my own outlook on life, right alongside of my clients, to have my mind oriented that it's second thought, we'll say, desired to be first thought, but definitely second thought is what's been going well, right? What has been working in my favor? How has life been working in my favor? Because I know there's 1,000 ways that it is, and yet, like I said, because the natural mind is so honed in on finding what's not working well, I want to spend that time to really invest in my own work, to be able to be easily able to see what's working well. So all that to say, I encourage you. Also, I think it's just a fabulous tool to really sit down and reflect. You don't have to sit down, but to be conscious and present with where are you at? We're at April 30th, and what's happened? How has life been working in your favor? What has surprised you about the month that you didn't expect, and what's been working well, right? In the work that I do with clients, I call them wins. What have the wins been for the last month? Because again, like I said, we're so trained to find the problems, and we're so trained to spend time and focus and energy on what's not yet the way we want it to be. And so instead, right, because that's really what it is, to get liberated is all about doing things in a new way, a specific way, but at the core of it, it's like the ways that you've been operating that has been heavy or uncomfortable or hard, we want to shift to where we're lightening our presence and we're lightening the way that we go through the world, right? So one of those ways is right here in this reflection, where you would normally, not take time to reflect on what's been going on the last month, like become fully conscious and present with what has happened over the last 30 days. Most people don't spend time doing that. So that I give to you the first thing, right? One thing you can literally consciously do to actually get liberated and shift who you've been being in the world and the way that you've been showing up in the world is to become more conscious, right? Otherwise known as to be more present with yourself and with your current reality. And so a super simple way to do that is the last day of the month, or, I usually do it sometime in the last week of the month, but here we are at the 30th. It's a perfect opportunity for you to just take a little bit of time today, like 10 minutes is amazing to reflect on the month and just become fully like present with yourself. What has actually happened over this last month? And then, of course, I like to also look towards the future, right? What's the vision of the month of May? And where would I love to be on May 31st? In my life, right? In all the key areas of life, where would you really like to be on May 31st? And then spend like 10 minutes reflecting on where you'd like to be on May 31st in all the significant areas, right? Where do you want to be in your business? How much money do you want to have made? Where do you want to be in your relationships? Where do you want to be with your kids? Where do you, see yourself with maybe a particular interest or hobby that you've been working on, or a passion? I don't really even call them hobbies anymore. It's such an interesting word, this word hobbies. But your passions, your interests, the things that light you up in the world, right? Where you're investing your time. And so just give yourself like 10 minutes today to think both on what's gone well for you in the last 30 days and where would you like to be in the next 30 days. So let me give that to you as just the first thing, super tangible, right away you can put to work for you as part of the process of getting liberated and living a liberated life. So this is something I continue to do even now when I would say I am living a liberated life. And I'll just insert here for any of you that might be new or that might be wondering, what does that really mean to be living a liberated life, right? I call it liberated living. And at the end of the day, it's super simple. It's like there's a whole bunch of things that it does mean for me specifically, but what's more important is what does it mean for you to live liberated, right? If you were stripped of all your fear and all your worry and all your, I'm not there yet and I'm not good enough and this problem and that problem, and life were like, amazing, right? You were feeling amazing and you were living that extraordinary life that you're meant to live. What would it look like? What would it be like? What would it feel like, right? That's what it is to be actually feeling, living, liberated. So when I'm referring to liberated living, it's like those things that you've been able to do to allow yourself to be in the space. It doesn't even have to be all of the time, right? It can be in the moment where you're like, life is really good right now. Then you're having a moment of liberated living. So I want to talk today about a couple of different things actually that I've been really my heart's been provoked over this week, and all topics that I love talking about all the time, but a couple that really were highlighted to me this week that I believe are for you to hear and to benefit from. But one of the topics, which is why I named it this, has come up multiple times over the last several years and came up a couple of weeks ago in conversation with a peer. And just this idea of everything that you need is within you already, right? And it's said in a couple of different ways, like all you need, you don't need anything else, everything you need is already inside of you, is one of the ways I hear it. And so there might be a couple of different variations to that, but the sentiment has been stated many times over, and in conversations with people over the years, both I have been like, what does that really mean, right? Because it's a very big thing to say, and it sounds vague at the same time, right? And so it came up again, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I actually have so much more awareness and insight as to what that does mean. I would love to share on that. So if you're already in the space, we'll say, right, in the personal development space or any of the ways that you talk about personal growth, if you're already in this space, you probably have heard that phrase and or you have some semblance of what it means. So I want to share a little bit about what I think it means and also how it's applicable to you and how it can fuel you and empower you and allow you to benefit immediately from just a little bit better understanding of what that phrasing means, and essentially get liberated. So what I invite you to this morning, and this is how I actually facilitate most of my calls with my clients, is to just start out with an intention for the morning of by the time and or whatever time of day it might be as you're catching this on replay, feel free to drop into the comments that you watch this on replay, #replay, to set the intention for yourself and to join me in setting the intention that by the end of this call, you will experience a breakthrough. You will experience a revelation, an awareness that you weren't aware of before, a new understanding of some kind that literally by the end of this time together, you'll feel a sense of liberation for yourself. You know, big picture, that's the thing that I'm always working towards, is to have like just a little bit more of an understanding, a little bit more of an awareness, because the path to ultimately liberated living is a series of greater awarenesses, insights, understandings that allows you to then go out into today and do something different from the way you've been living up until today. And that's why I started out the call here just jumping right into, hey, one of the things that I practically, tangibly do to live liberated is this. So here, please take it, use it, and put it into practice. And here's the thing, the reason that I continuously explain how it takes time and it's a progressive experience is because liberation is a process and there's always more available, right? It isn't like you get to like a point in time and you're like, oh, I'm liberated and all is well. That does happen. And part of what you learn as you're going through the liberation process, and part of what you learn when you're working with me, is this idea, this concept, right? This awareness that there's also always more available for you. So it isn't like you go through the liberation process and you get to a point and then it just kind of like plateaus because like boring. No, it's like you get liberated, right? And you understand the process of liberation and you understand the feeling of what it is to experience liberation inside of your body, inside of your mind, inside of your heart. Right? You capture all of that because that really is where liberation happens. It doesn't happen out here, right? It happens inside of you. It's in your heart, it's in your mind, it's in your awareness and the ways in which you see the world. So that nothing outside of you actually has to change. It's all happening within you is liberation. And so you become a different you. You become an upgraded version of you who now sees things in a new way, right? And if you think about how long it's taken you to get to here, the way that you see the world now, right? It's taken you as many years as you've been alive. So that to say, as you experience liberation inside of who you are, right? Then everything forward, from today forward, and from the process when you really feel liberation in your being, everything forward, there's more. Because now you're just literally experiencing all of life in a new way. And it has the potential for every day to feel like you're gaining more. I'm going to talk more about that this morning, but I just wanted to introduce that to you to have a better sense of what am I talking about, right? Especially if you're new and you're joining and you're like, what does she really mean when she's saying liberated living? So hoping that gives you a little bit better sense, and feel free to drop any questions for me to answer, reach out to me, to ask any other specific questions, because it's an evolving sort of conversation, we'll say. And again, it's also very specific to you and what it will mean for you, way more than even what it means for me. But like I said, it's really something that you experience inside of your being that would conclude you to say, I feel amazing and life is amazing, right? And it's not like, oh, I'm happy, like everything's amazing. No. For any of you that like know me and you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not that person. But I'm genuinely coming to the table with like, man, life is amazing. And I feel amazing about who I am. And again, that's been a process because up until, I don't know, 7 years ago, I couldn't say that. I would say it in a whole different way, right? But it would really have been based on like who I'd been taught to be, which was, pretty amazing. And just a different set of beliefs, we'll say. Not better, not worse, anything wrong with it, just different. And that's really what I want to get at, is it's really just different. It's not better, it's just different. And it comes from a place where you no longer are comparing yourself to other people to know whether or not you're doing things right, which is part of how I would have determined that previously. And you're no longer like questioning whether or not you're doing things right. And you're no longer using the word should. And I think those three like really sum up sort of where I was at before, right? Which again was not like a bad place to be. And it is where most humans get to. They're like looking around and they're like, okay, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. But this version of me with these new awarenesses and this new outlook on life is like, oh no, there is so much more that we get to be and that we get to enjoy. So I'll leave it at that for now. And I want to circle back to all that you need is already within you. Right? This is such a huge concept, and yet it's so beautiful. And so whatever, it's gonna, let me preface to say, whatever you believe spiritually, right? Religiously, spiritually, to allow yourself just to have a moment with me this morning to expand your thoughts. If anything I say doesn't quite fit, just adjust it, just move it around and try something on that fits better for you. So one of the things that I think of when I think of the phrasing, all that you need is already within you, everything that you need is already within you. Part of what I think about is, how was I made, right? Originally, like where the heck did I come from? And so for me, it's very easy for me to look at myself, to look at you, to look at everything out around me, and especially in nature, and be like, oh yeah, something created me. Something created all of this. It fits together so beautifully and so intelligently and so creatively that just blows my mind and is like bigger than I can really explain, right? Or that my mind can really understand in the deepest of ways. And when you understand it, at least like enough to be able to say like, wow, this is amazing how like the plants, right? How their systems are networked together to be able to grow and survive and to live. Just going from that, let alone the human body and the design of the human body. So my mind goes right to, there is a creator, and I call it God, right? And we're all like collective, we're all connected in that way, right? We're all created by the same God and the same intelligence and the same creativity. And so when you think about how does that translate, right? It's like within me is all that I need, right? Because why would a creator create you without something that you needed, right? That like doesn't really make sense to me. So again, keeping it simple, it's like, yeah, everything that you need is already within you because naturally you would be created that way. And so here's what I want you to hear from this, like most importantly, is you, just like me, may not know what you need. You may be confused about how to access what is within you. And you may think that you're missing things. But all of that, and I felt all of those ways up and through my 30s. And, spent all kinds of time thinking about where did we come from and what are we really here for and what am I really meant to be doing? And I loved having all of those thoughts. I mean, I didn't love it, but I naturally had great conversations that I did very much enjoy regularly and still do on all of those topics. But here's the bigger thing. It's like, just because you don't understand it and just because you can't access things inside of you, or you can't make sense of things inside of you, or you feel like you're missing something, doesn't mean you actually are. It just means that you can't figure it out. And that's okay, right? We have such high expectations for ourselves that we should be able to figure it out, and we should be able to understand all of these things. And yet it's like, come on, let's be serious. I too had that same impression. And now I'm like, that is ridiculous. I can genuinely say to myself now, right? And I just want to offer to you with a lightheartedness to it. That's ridiculous. To think that we could know all that we would need to know to live a really amazing life is ridiculous. So what I want you to hear from this is all that you need is within you, right? You have all of the intelligence within you that is needed to be able to live an amazing life. But because we're made the way that we are, because our brains and our minds are made the way that they are, and the way that this, greater system of who we are and how we're connected, it has allowed us to be connected for a reason. And so that's part of what I believe is just, it's like, when you think about the family and you think about relationships, like there's a very clear design for us to be in relationship with each other. And so part of that design and part of that connection and that relationship is that while you do possess all that you need, we're actually needed, like all the different parts of the body are needed in order for the body to function, right? If we got rid of one of the parts, the body would just, not every single part is essential, right? But all of the parts have a purpose. They all serve to bring the body into union with itself. And so it's the same thing with us as humans, right? We all have unique and special gifts and things that you're better at naturally. And so when you bring people together, you're able to access even more of yourself. It's not really that you're getting something from outside of you that you needed or that you were missing. It's just that resource outside of you is helping you to access what is already inside of you, to encourage understanding and awareness that is actually already in you. And I think I'll leave it sort of at that as far as the basis of what I wanted to explain as far as all that is within you. I want to build on it to help you feel empowered by it. But that is at the heart of it right there. Is it's for you to walk around feeling, which is how I felt, and I've talked to so many people, including so many mental health professionals of all kinds, who feel like they're missing something, who feel like they're lacking, who feel like they're not good enough, who feel like they're broken. Something is really wrong with them. I want you to know and I want you to hear that simply isn't the case. You may feel that way, and you may get a lot of feedback from outside of you that reinforces you to feel that way, but it isn't really true, okay? And so for you to feel a level of empowerment just from this awareness, you were created with everything that you need to be amazing, to live liberated, to feel freedom, to feel enjoyment and pleasure from life, to feel purpose. It is already within your human design. It's already inside of you right now. And so when you come into connection and partnership with the right people, with people who understand that, and people who can help you to access more understanding and awareness for you to use towards your liberation, then that's actually the pathway to becoming more empowered, more free, more liberated. Okay? So, what are some of these things that are within you? The things that really stood out to me this week in my conversations with people is that let me start with the one, desires, right? There are desires that are within you. And a lot of the times, I'll just give for an example, in my last, we'll just say several months of talking with people, common theme that comes up is they're, working a job, or they're working 2 or 3 jobs, or they're, doing some sort of work right now, right? That they don't love. And they're wishing that they could be doing a little something else. We'll just leave it at that to keep it simple. And so when I tap into, well, what is it you would absolutely love to be doing, right? There's an awareness that I now know, if someone doesn't tell me they love what they're doing, then I know that there's something else they wish they were doing. And oftentimes it's been buried way down in there, and I gotta dig to find it. But 9 times out of 10, I find it, right? 9 times out of 10, that person's like, well, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and I'm hoping that, I'll be able to do this in the future. And I'm like, that sounds exhausting. You sound tired just describing it to me. So tell me what it is you really want to be doing. And let's find that. And we'll go on a little search adventure, and then we find it. And this is how I know when we find it. Because their whole face lights up, right? And it completely transforms to what it's been up until that moment when they're telling me all the things they're doing in their life right now. And then when I get to the desire of their heart, they go, well, I have always thought it would be really cool to do blah, 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 blah. Or the thing I really enjoy doing and I just do for friends and family for free because I love it is blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, there we are, okay? And so what I want to offer to you is one of the things that's already within you that you need access to be able to benefit for you to live a liberated life is, what are the desires of your heart? And because most of us have been taught that the desires of your heart don't pay the bills, they don't make sense to prioritize as your main thing, or they don't seem sensible, we squish it down, right? We suppress it, right? And a lot of times we feel like other people have made us suppress it, or have told us we can't do that, or that we shouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, right, you're now a responsible adult and you're fully responsible for yourself. And so it's this beautiful opportunity to stop blaming outside of ourselves, which I was right there with you, and instead be able to recognize I am the one who's saying I can't do that. I am the one that's now saying, oh no, you can't do that because it won't make money. Oh no, you can't really do that thing because that doesn't really make sense. Or, oh, you don't really know what that thing is that you really want to do. So you should just keep doing the thing that you're doing now. And I just want you to know hey, that is you that's doing it. And if it's you that's doing it, then you can also be the one that does it differently. Amazing. So the desires within you are actually super, super important. Now, I know you're like, wait a minute, what? Nobody taught me that. Yeah, I know. It's okay. And, oh, I was actually taught the opposite. Yeah, I know. And it's okay, right? But that is the experience that most of us have. And I can say that to you now because I've talked to hundreds of people and have all kinds of conversations regularly with just not just my clients, but just everybody out in the world. I was just having conversations with people yesterday about this. And it's when you're not lighting up about what you're talking about or what you're doing in your life, then you're not actually dialed in to the desires of your heart. And I use that phrase because it's a phrase that I learned growing up in church. Whatever phrase works best for you, however you think about that thing, those things that get you the most excited, that you could talk for hours about, those things that light you up, that get you passionate, excited, those are the things I call the desires of your heart. And that is part of this context of all that you need is within you. You don't need to go outside of yourself to find those desires of your heart. And that I just know now from talking to so many people and having conversations about, tell me what it is that lights you on fire. And I can, again, 9 times out of 10, I can find it. People will allow themselves to go there and share it with me. And so I'm saying the desire is there. So you know what it is you're meant for, right? You know what it is that you are oriented to. Of course, you're going to need to get education and training of sorts, not anywhere near like I thought you needed. Years ago, I thought you needed all this education and training. Turns out you don't really need that. Again, when you're tapped into the desires of your heart and you're tapped into what is already within you, it actually comes quite easily. And here's a case in point. It's when you're already tapped into the thing that you absolutely love doing and you have permission to go after it, and I'll, quotations permission, because ultimately you give yourself permission, but it feels like you need it from somewhere else, then you go all in on that thing. And you learn so easily and so naturally, and you're drawn to all different types of sources and mentors and, materials that help to teach you more, hone your skill set. So I'm not saying you have all of the knowledge or all of the skill set already within you. Of course, those things need to be honed and you progressively get better. That's part of the process of being human, is being able to grow and learn over time. But the desire is already in you. And so, I hear people at times giving me different diagnoses that preclude them from being able to study or to focus or to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. But when I get into conversations with them, what I 9 times out of 10, probably actually 10 out of 10, but I'm just going to say 9 out of 10, what I find is they're not interested in whatever the thing is that they're trying to force themselves to get done, to accomplish. And they've learned from outside sources oh, you're not organized, right? And I'm yeah, says who? Really? And are you able to find whatever it is you're looking for when you need it? Yes, I am. Okay, fine. Then you're organized enough. Are you organized in your, office in such a way that I came in and I could find stuff? Okay, probably not. But I don't need to find stuff in your office, right? And so these are, again, just rules and judgments that we've created and that we put on top of each other, right? And parents put on their children, and, you grow up and you put them on your children to then leave you thinking, oh, I'm not a very focused person, or I can't accomplish things, or there's something wrong with me. No, it's really just you have a different way of doing things. And you've been trained to get things done that you don't have an interest in doing, and or you don't desire to do in the way that the world has told you should get them done. So again, I just want to give you that bigger context because I've talked to so many people. Literally, I was just talking to someone yesterday about this exact thing. And I'm if you stay tapped into your desires, not what you've been told that they should be or what, my desires are. You tap into your desires, and that is the information that you need. And when you allow yourself to go there and then to hone those desires, hone those skills, grow in those ways, it comes easy and naturally. And you get more and more excited about doing it. And so then the things that you used to be oh, I hate paperwork, and oh, I hate, whatever things that you hate right now, you start to love them. You learn to love them because you're doing them inside of the desire that lights you up. Okay? So please, again, ask questions if it feels confusing or you're a little unsure, and otherwise give me some hearts if it's yeah, that makes sense. I get that. Just for a little feedback. And I can share more if it's needed. So the desires of your heart are, I think, number one, to really understanding all that you have now is within you. It's what you need. Everything you need is within you. And then there's this purpose, right? And it ties so closely. The 3 things I'm going to talk about this morning, they all tie in together. But the second one really is purpose. And it is within you. Now, what happens is the same thing that happens with desires is we get told all these messages from outside of what our purpose should or shouldn't be. And so by the time you get to my age, use that loosely for wherever you're at, purpose is very diluted and very confused. And you have these questions like, is this it? What am I here for? What's the second half of my life like gonna be? And is there anything more than what there is now? Or is this like as good as it gets? Or other people who are like, yeah, I have everything I need, right? People who've been very focused financially and very focused on becoming successful, right? And they feel really good about who they are and what they've, not feel really good about who they are, but they feel really good about what they've accomplished, and they've like, quote, arrived at a certain level, right, that they desire to be at, primarily financially. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't need any more. I'm good, right? And I challenge people when I hear people that say, I'm good, I'm like, what does that mean you're good? Like, is that how you want to live the next 40 years? You want to live from this place of, I'm good? Because that doesn't feel inspiring to me to live the next 40 years under this framework of, yeah, I'm good. Like, I feel good. You even see it in their eyebrows, just like I did, I'm good. And I'm like, what does that mean, right? Again, they're operating, in my opinion, they're operating off of this world view, right? This outside world that has said to them, if you get to this point in your life where you have a really nice house and you have nice cars and you can, you have financial freedom, you're good. And I'm like, no, that is not what the God of the universe created us for, is to live a life where we say, it's been good, in my opinion. My heart, right, and the passion that is within me is like, I want to live at the level that God intended, right? I want to enjoy at the level that was intended. I want to feel that level within my body, at least some of the time, that is the best feeling I could have as a human. Why wouldn't you want that, right? And so when I challenge people or give a little pushback on I'm good, people are very like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I'll say like, do you think God created you to be good? And it starts a whole conversation. So I just want to offer to you here, you were created for a purpose. You were created with a purpose, and your purpose, again, so that it's a little bit of a fresh view on purpose, because again, it's like so talked about, especially if you're in the personal development space, it's so over talked about and so many different thoughts and contributions on it. For me, purpose is you putting your desires into play and you seeing that you're helping to move life forward, because you see that you're moving your life forward. And then as you move your life forward, you see how you're helping other people to move their life forward. And then big picture, of course, the result is you feel like you're contributing to the greater good of the world, right? To the greater purpose of the world, for us to be coming together in such a way that we're creating beauty. Because here's what I would say, the opposite of that, right? And what you see so much also going on in the world, which is we're not coming together beautifully, right? I mean, you see so much of that commented on from people, especially in social media, about how it's literally just the opposite of that. People coming together in such a way that it's creating more hate and more upset and more dis-ease, right? So purpose should be bringing you together first, bringing you literally more together, more connected, a greater sense of belonging, a greater sense of value. And when you do that for yourself, you then recognize that you're starting to do that for the people that you work with, right? Whether it's your clients, it's your family, you start to see that first outer world gets impacted amazingly when you are becoming more connected to your purpose, when you're feeling like, yes, I am walking in alignment with what I was designed to do here. And again, it's going to be very specific for you, just like it's very specific for me. But when you think about the term purpose, I want you to have like a global framework for it that can be accessible for everyone. And it's this sense of you're bringing you into greater alignment. You're accessing and, you're accessing the desires of your heart, and you're bringing the desires of your heart into fruition. And you're operating in the world now from manifesting the desires of your heart. And now you're going through the world with that sense of purpose. And you're like, yes, I have a very clear sense of my purpose, which can evolve and change. It's not just even singular, but it can evolve and it can change. And everyone's comes back to you're helping you move forward. You're helping your people around you move forward, not just feeling better, right? Because that's what I used to do in my, it doesn't really even matter what I was doing before. But in the work that I was doing before, I was helping people, I was working with clients, I was helping people to feel better. But I could not quite get people to go from like feeling good to feeling amazing. And I really wanted to help people feel amazing about who they were. And so as I really got into studying, I had to figure out for myself how to feel amazing. Because I didn't at that time, where I was at in my journey, my life journey, I didn't feel amazing, but I did feel good, right? I got to a point, over the years where I felt good, but I could never get to, I feel amazing. And I could feel that way consistently over time, right? Because now I'm going on, at least 5 years solid of I feel amazing as my state of being. Not like an emotion or a feeling or all of the time, but as my presence in the world. It's been about 5 years. It's kind of mind-blowing actually, where I feel amazing. And I'm operating from that place within me. Because again, I've shifted what goes on inside of here. And I no longer think the things that I was thinking over here that limited me to the best that it could get was me feeling good. So all of that to bring us back to purpose is helping ultimately the world to move forward. And you feel like, yes, I am helping the world to move forward. So that's desires and then purpose. And then the third one is guidance. And again, this is within you. Now, again, we get taught from very early on in life through nobody's fault, right? This isn't about blaming. This is about awareness. Right from the beginning, you start getting told what you should and shouldn't do by your parents. And then as you get older, you get into school and you get into, sports and you get into whatever else you were in. I was in yearbook and debate. So you get into all of these avenues, right, of life. And there's a lot of you should and shouldn't being communicated. And there's a lot of this is the way. And so naturally, you start thinking unconsciously, they know what's best for me. And so if you don't intentionally also get taught, you know what's best for you. And here's how to know. Here's how to do it, right? If you don't get taught, here's how to tap in to that inner guidance, to God who is within you, to, however you think about it for you spiritually, to be able to recognize that the answers are within you. If you don't get taught that, well, then you grow up to be our age and you're still thinking they have the answers or they know what's best. And again, you're not consciously thinking that anymore because you're my age, somewhere in there, right? And you're like, of course I know what's good for me, or of course I know what's best. But if you don't actually intentionally change the conditioning that you got early on in life, where you can really say, I really know what's best for me, then you just haven't learned it at the level that you need to in order to feel really good about knowing what's good for you. Does that make sense? So guidance, right? We call it things like intuition. I'm kind of blanking on other words. I used to call it my inner wisdom, the still small voice. We have all of these different names. Feel free to pop into the comments here what you call it or what you've heard it called, because there are so many ways that people refer to it. But at the end of the day, what it is, right, is some form of guidance. It's some form of leading, some form of, ooh, this feels like the thing I'm meant to do, or, oh, I feel like today I need to take care of this, right? And what that is, one way of referring to it is, it's guidance. It's direction, right? It's a you knowing what you need to be doing. It's a knowing of what you're meant to be doing, of what is best for you. But again, unless that's been nurtured and honed and you freed up the other pathways that you've been living for probably like 40 years, you don't trust yourself. And I'll just say it that directly because, again, in my hundreds of conversations with people, that is a very consistent thing that I hear from, again, 9 times out of 10 people. I don't trust myself. Now, I have to like do a little bit of conversation to get to where somebody actually has that, statement. But normally it starts out by them saying, I'm not a very trusting person. I don't trust a lot of people. I only really go to a few people, right? And what I then know from what they're now telling me is they don't ultimately truly trust themselves. And they themselves feel very skeptical and unsure as they're moving through the world. Totally get it. I too. I would have literally used that even. I would have said it as like something that's good about me. I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm naturally very skeptical about people. As if that were like a good thing. And I'm not even saying it's not, right? It's not useful to be like, was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? It's really not useful. What's more useful is to recognize that I can trust myself because I do have an inner knowing of what is good for me. And again, why would you be formed and put together as this amazing, intelligent human being who's capable of so much and not have some sense of inner wisdom to guide you? That just doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't make sense that the way that you would figure out what's best for you is by going and asking other people what's best for you. And yet, right, because there's so much, again, lack of trust and lack of self-love and lack of self-acceptance and just so much that's happened in the world that's gotten so many people to be very down on themselves, full of anxiety, full of I'm not good enough feelings, that you probably haven't been taught how to really trust yourself. And so I just want to offer it to you like, cool. Now you know. That's part of what you need to work on for yourself to have liberation. To be liberated, to live liberated, one must feel confident in trusting themselves. So the top 3 things for you this morning is tapping into the desires of your heart, understanding that you are here for a purpose and that your purpose should ultimately result in you feeling more connected within you, you feeling more connected to your purpose here in the world, and then ultimately your purpose should be helping to move life forward. And then the third one is you have within you, and both of those things you have within you, and the third one is trusting yourself, right? That there is a guidance system within you that can guide you, that is designed to guide you to trust that you do know what's best for you. Again, I'm not saying to not talk to other people about what's best for you or to have conversations with people that you trust. But again, you could literally do a lot of the very same actions that you do now. But when you do it with this radically different understanding of desires, of purpose, and inner guidance, you show up completely different. Let me just give you a quick example. I used to, at the previous place that I worked several years ago now, more than 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I used to go to a very small group of people and I would say, man, I really don't know what to do. Can I bounce a few things off of you? I'm really not sure what to do. And I would go through my current circumstance and then I would say something like, what do you think I should do? Or what do you think about this circumstance that's going on? And I would want that person, ultimately what I now can tell you is I wanted that person to tell me what to do, right? As a highly educated person who was like literally, supervising other people and like ultimately navigating a lot of other people's paths, at least in the workplace, we'll say. And in my own realm of business, I was going to other people, essentially, if you just strip it down and look at it bare bones, I was going to other people to tell me what to do. Because I wasn't sure, because ultimately I had not cultivated and developed a very secure sense of trust in myself. Whew, so good. It's so good, people. Hear me. It's so good when you really, really, really understand this sense of trust. When you experience a sense of trust and you can like say out loud, I really trust myself to handle whatever comes, to find my way through, to navigate my path. I trust myself to do that. So I would invite you, like, try it out, right? Because if you're not sure on any of these points that I've shared on, all you have to do is say it out loud to yourself and then say, how believable is that? Do I fully believe myself? And no judgment, right? Like, this isn't like, none of what I'm giving to you is meant to be like a way to now judge yourself, or a way to now be like, oh, how have I not figured that out? Or how have I not arrived? Or how have I not learned how to do that? Because for the first several years of my liberation process, I was like so upset for various things. I can't believe that I'm just learning this now at 40, whatever. Okay, that wasn't helping me. Big picture, actually just slowed my progress down, that I spent, a fair amount of time for at least a year or two being like, how did I not learn this? How am I not further ahead? So let me spare you that time wasted. We'll say, again, I don't think anything is really wasted, but that energy can be better utilized. So instead of beating yourself up about any of this stuff that you don't already do, just be like, okay, cool. Now I know these are some of the things that will literally free me, that will literally give me the most amazing life. Learning how to tap into your desires and access them, how to tap into purpose and access it, how to tap into your guidance and access it. All of these things are literally the strategies to be living your life by, to have the result of freedom, to have the result of living a liberated life. So all of those are things that you can absolutely learn, and honestly, pretty quickly, way faster than I would have thought before I went through the journey myself. And now I continue to learn and grow and receive my own coaching so that I can continue to get even more liberated. Like I said at the beginning, there's always more. God has created this amazing sense of there's always more, right? And so every level of life offers new cool things. And in order to experience them, have them, live into them, you have to get more and more liberated. And so there's just more and more within you to strip back, pull back. Again, not from like oh man, why am I not there yet? No, when you're in the liberated mindset and you're in the liberated living, you're like, what else can I strip away? Right? Now when I show up on my coaching call on Friday, I was like, I found more judgment that I want to remove from myself so that the result is you get to live more free. It's just how it works. And so when you're no longer like downing yourself for not being there already, you're now just excited to do more of the work, more of that process. Does that make sense? Okay. So wrapping us up here for this morning. So good. Those are the three key things really I want to leave with you. I have a couple of other things, but I think I'm going to save them for next week's message, next week's training. So everything that you need is within you to live the most amazing life. What's needed is those people, those team of experts, as I call it in my work with people, is you need a team of experts who understand this, who understand what I've talked about this morning, who can help you to hone those skills, to access those resources that are within you, to access your specific desires, purpose, and help you learn how to trust yourself, which means you've got to strip away all of the things that have brought you to this point where you would say, I don't trust many people, including myself, right? And that could be a very, you could do it, right? I don't want to say you couldn't do it, because I believe there is this supernatural, God, where you could literally be like, yeah, I'm just going to start trusting myself. But what I will say I also believe, because I myself was not able to do that, is we're meant to be in relationship. We're meant to be in partnerships of all kinds. One of them is this mentor-mentee relationship, where you get to be in this amazing relationship and you get to be poured into, right? You get to work with someone who's just pouring into you and helping you to grow and helping you to tap into exactly what you need to tap into. That's literally how I believe we're designed. Because again, I went almost 40 years and I was always searching for a mentor. And I regularly had mentors. I just hadn't tapped into, we'll say, the mentors that really lived in this way. And so that's why I say now it's a process, it's a journey, it's an experience to go through. And when those people show up in your life, I want you to know what I believe. You're always being offered the next version of who you're meant to be mentored by, who you're meant to do life with for a time. Because as I went through my journey, my mentors got better and better and better and better. And when I say better, I mean they were more and more free. They trusted themselves more and more and more and more. The first mentors that I was really partnered with, they didn't trust themselves. And so again, as you're growing and you're focused on, I want to live a liberated life, I want to feel amazing about myself, and you stay focused on that being your ultimate goal, you will attract into your sight mentors who are living that way. Those are the people you want to partner with. If you keep partnering with those people who are really just like you, which is what I was always looking for, who is just like me, who do I think could help me, right? That doesn't work, because they help you be more like you are now, which is also pretty amazing. I'm not gonna, you are really amazing right now. But here's the thing, you want to break past where you are right now. So if you keep getting mentored by people that are right where you're at, you're not going to get to the liberated living. You get to the I'm good. And this has been a huge awareness and a huge shift for me in how I do life. And it also resulted in me having to be willing to go outside the comfort zone in every way, right? I had to go outside the comfort zone of finding someone who was really better than I was, right? Who was more equipped, who was living more free than I was. And I had to be willing to partner with that person to help me get more free, which naturally also meant I had to be willing to operate at a higher level, had to be willing to invest more financially, had to be willing to utilize my time in a much more efficient way, it really just required me to upgrade myself rather than continuing to operate right here on the same level where I was at. It required me to upgrade and be willing to go higher. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, please ask. So you want to be on the lookout for those people, right? It's why you're here, following me, learning from me, engaging with me like this. And again, I'm so grateful that you're here. It's my joy and passion to spend time with you this morning and anytime we're together here in this way. Be on the lookout for them. It's why you're here. It's why you're wanting this, right? Because you want to get free, because you want to live this life that you know is available, but is just out of reach. And it just will continue to be out of reach, where you're grasping at the air until you take the time to really go in and recondition your mind, to retrain your mind to literally, as I call it, learn to live a different way. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining me. And all of this so useful back at the beginning. If you are tuning in late or you're only catching some of it, I gave some super practical tools at the very beginning of some very tangible thing, but now that you've heard this whole message, you'll understand why that very tangible practice is so important. And I will drop the link to be able to have a conversation with me. Reach out to me by text, by Facebook Messenger, and just say, hey, actually, I want to talk with you about how to get more liberated, right? I want what you've got. I see where you're at, and I want your help tapping into my desires, tapping into my purpose, and learning how to trust myself so that I can create my own liberated life. Again, I'm not looking for you to do what I'm doing. I'm now doing what I've really wanted to be doing for a long time. And that's what I help people with, is I help you start doing what you desire and what you want to be doing to create your own liberated life. So the first step is you and I having a formal, having a conversation where we get on a call just like this, only I see your face when I'm looking into my camera, and we talk about what it is that you really want, right? We tap in, what is it that you desire? And then we get more clear on what is it that's been keeping you from creating what you desire. And then if it feels like a good fit after we get to know each other a little bit, I tell you what it is to work with me, what it looks like. I work with people for 6 months because that's really the time frame you need. For me, what I need to help you create this type of sustainable transformation where the rest of your life you get to experience liberated living. So the first step is literally getting on a conversation, having a phone call like this where we get to talk about what it would look like for you to live a liberated life. All right, you guys, I'll see you next Sunday. I'll be tuning in from Asheville. Troy and I leave on Thursday from Myrtle Beach, and I look forward to spending time with you next week. All right, you guys, between now and when I see you next, you know what I say. Go do that thing you most want to be doing, and I'll talk to you soon.